don't realize is that the lights above, if they're fluorescent or LED, they impact the the nutrients of the food. And then also too, you don't know how far it's been traveling. The longer it's been traveling or the longer it's been off the vine, the less minerals it starts to have. So if that thing's been sitting in the grocery store for 2, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it may be, it now is pretty much almost lifeless. So when you go to eat it, there's not many minerals coming into the body. Versus if you're growing your own food, like you mentioned, you're directly connected to nature. You're touching nature, which is very healing. Barefoot grounding and all of that has been shown to be very healing. And now you're also connected with your plants. You're exchanging this beautiful energy. And that's why, like you were saying, your grandma was probably very healthy and lived to an old age because she's very connected to,
92,
yeah,
completely independently, never had a car, walked miles even at 92.
yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And you get your hands in the dirt, and when you've got real dirt, not chemically altered dirt that's killed off all the microbiome in the dirt, you're building your microbiome as you do. I don't show my hands to anyone because these are horsey gardener's hands, but at least there's a lot of microbiome living on there, I can tell you. It's so exciting, isn't it, that these discussions are coming back. One of the things I think has been the best things over the last few years, where everyone started talking about these issues, and even the censorship that both of you and I have faced so much of, it makes people think now, doesn't it, about, well, why can't we have these conversations?
Well, and yesterday my video was removed off of YouTube for talking about topics like this, of just how to be healthy and addressing the root cause. I
Was
talked
that
about
the
that.
one? The
Yeah,
five causes? I
yeah,
watched that. Oh, that's
that's the one.
disgusting, because I listened to
Yeah,
that really closely.
yeah.
And what was their excuse for taking that off?
So they said it's putting people in harm's way if they listen to this video, and that was pretty much the only thing, and they just took it down. And
Yeah,
and that's the thing is, when I've started to realize that certain things obviously cause health ailments, like cell phone towers, cellular phones, GMOs, pesticides, toxins, this has all been shown. This is all on, and what's funny is it's all on PubMed too.
exactly.
You can go on PubMed and see that like poison causes illness, like simple things that are all there. So I'm not saying anything that's like completely out of there or out of out of the ballpark, but that's the thing. People have to realize that they are really trying to block the information
Yeah,
for us being healthy so that they can continue to make money. And same thing with the grocery stores. They want us to buy grocery store food or these things because then they can put all these weird things on it and then we eat them. But if we take back our independence, which I'm all about, and growing our own food and even the electroculture and everything that I've talked about to help, really create the abundance we need, then we can be very healthy. And it's also very hard to control very healthy people, but when people are sick and they have an illness and whatever else, they're easily controllable. So, with all this information and censoring, the wonderful part is people are seeing through it now and
yeah.
going, if this is blocked, I want to learn about it. Because now they're starting to see that everything that you're usually told, it's to do the opposite. That's what we should do. So this is kind of like a big thing. And I think it'll only accelerate. And other platforms like Rumble and other things have been growing tremendously because they're not censoring people just talking about eating healthy, just crazy things like I'm going to eat an organic orange. And they just go, this is false and misleading information,
Information.
like
It,
silly.
it just beggars belief. I mean, I had a story. I when I was about 40, I had really bad hip problems, and it was only really affecting me when I was riding one of my horses. But anyway, the doctors at the age of 40 wanted to give me a double hip replacement.
Wow.
And I was like, absolutely no way. One, I've got a couple of small kids. I've got all my rescue animals. I work full time on that. But secondly, and I can remember sitting there saying to the doctor, you're not even going to ask me about my diet. Why? I look fairly healthy, the rest of me. Why I've got this? Oh, it's just genetic, just genetic. So anyway, I went to weigh me out. I thought at that time, like a lot of us do, I thought I was fairly healthy, but obviously my body was telling me otherwise. And that's when I really big time got into alkalizing, superfoods, really into that. And I kid you not, within 6 weeks of just doing a lot of really clean juicing and just introducing, not even really drastic, I didn't cut anything particularly out of my diet, I just added a lot of good stuff in, completely gone. my hip pain, never come back. Unbelievable. And it was a real wake-up call for me, because our bodies are always giving us clues, aren't they? And we ignore them. And so many times we can fall for that argument that it's genetic, that, you know, this is what happens when you age, etc. But there's so much healing potential in our bodies if only we give it the right input and start listening to it properly.
Well, I like how you said that too, because the genetic thing is pushed very heavily. But
Yeah,
the other interesting part that's not talked about is that family lineage over time usually eats the same food. So if you have
absolutely.
toxins in the food supply at the beginning, you know, when you were grandma and grandpa's, and then they fed the food to the next generation and the next generation and the grandkids, the same poisons have been put into all of those generations, which result in the same illnesses. So then instead of saying it's genetic, as we've been told, in reality, there's just poisons in the terrain, and it's through, you know, through everybody getting together on a holiday, eating the same food, and then eating the same diets, and then resulting in the same thing. And I think that's a part that they always leave out, you know, because even in my family, they were all diabetes, and people
Yeah.
have blood sugar issues and things like that. Well, radio frequencies have been shown to impact the blood sugar. What's been rolled out in a long period of time? A lot of these things. So if you look at it, you could say one is either, you know, they're genetic or they're in tune too. That's the other part I feel that's always missing, in tune to the frequencies, similar to when people say, I could predict the weather. Tomorrow it's going to rain. And that's the same exact thing. And I feel like it's always like a switch, you know, and I think you said it perfectly. And you can fix everything. There was a great documentary, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Half Dead, where the man just juiced fast. That's all he did for 60 days. And he healed every ailment and got off every single thing that he was given from the professionals. And he just drank juice. He actually drove all around the country giving people juice because he learned how beneficial it is. So we are self regenerating beings, but if we poison this beautifully crystal structure that we are, then we result in all the XYZ ailments that are all coming from that.
I love it. And one of the people I studied with is David Sandville, and he's really good. He's amazing. He wrote the Green Food Bible. And his favorite saying was, it's not that diabetes runs in your family, it's that no one runs in your family. And it makes me, they don't
Yeah.
exercise. But also, you've only got to look at the different cultures around the world to see, you know, what someone in the UK might say is a healthy breakfast. If you gave that to someone in Finland, they'd be horrified. So, you know, what we grow up to accept culturally in terms of the way that we eat is very, very different across the world. And I've been really enjoying studying the blue zones, where, you know, the areas of the world where people live the longest. And it's really fascinating, because I heard you talk about in your video, I think it was one of your other videos, about obviously there is no one diet suits all, and it depends on where you live. Obviously getting back to eating locally, seasonally, what's available, rather than flying stuff all across the world. But one of the things mattered about the blue zones was that people did grow their own food. They ate local produce. And one of the other contributing factors was how steep a hill they lived on. So a lot of their villages, because they had to do exercise every day as part of their daily activity, not going to the gym in, as I've heard you talk about, these false fluorescent chemically filled environments. You know, get out there and do what our bodies are really designed to do.
Yes, 100%. And that's the thing, you know, you it goes back to that convenience thing too. You just walk right in the store and the food's there. You don't have
Yeah.
to even pick it. You don't have to even, like, you know, oranges. You don't even have to try to get up there and grab them. They're already there for you, you know, and they've already been picked. And like you said, yes, the mountains play a big role too. You have a lot more oxygen. You also have a lot more UV. You have the
Yes.
highest UVs are at the tops of the mountains. So people exposed to the most amount of UVs were very, very healthy. People not exposed to a lot of UVs have been shown to not be as healthy, which is completely the opposite of what we've been told, that the UVs are dangerous and all the other stuff and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, we're meant to be active and we're meant to be connected. And then, yes, we're meant to also be in nature. And for example, you know, go run up a mountain and you'll see how much your heart goes. You'll see how difficult it is. Versus if we're in a synthetic environment like the gym world or whatever it may be, a lot of these things now have all these fake lights and Wi-Fi and scented stuff all over the place. You know, that's not conducive to long-term health. You know, so we have to think about these things. Like, nature is always here waiting for us to be connected and to touch it and be connected. And the more we're connected to that, the more we begin to heal. And I know by you, there's a lot of sacred gardens. You look
Yeah.
at the royals and they have sacred gardens. They have gardens that are absolutely massive that you can walk all around, that they walk around. So if
Mm.
you think about it, they're very connected to the nature that we're supposed to be, but we're doing the opposite. And that's why we have to connect back.
Yeah, and those of us that have got animals in our lives, you've only got to see that the animals can smell. Their sense of smell is way more dominant than ours. And they can smell which are the good puddles to drink from. They can smell, which plant. You take my horses out grazing, they know exactly which patch of grass, which might look the same to me, but completely different to them. So one of the other things that I know both you and I are equally passionate about, and I love hearing you talk about it, water. So I've got my lovely flasker structured water here and my lovely Zest filter. Talk us to what have you learned? What are the key things that you'd like to share with people that you've learned about water over the last few years?
So water, your whole body is water. You're 80 to 90% water. So anything you put into your body or on your body will absorb like a sponge. So for example, even any of the jewels that you wear, anything that has a crystal or anything that's gold, anything that's silver, the water in your body will take on that structure or that frequency or that fractal. So
Yeah.
anything that you're wearing at any time, any type of rings or necklaces or anklets, any of those things, they're all impacting the water structure of your body. And then also too, depending on what we drink out of. I do a lot of drinking out of copper cups. I do some stuff out of brass, clay, stones, glass, all different things. Because water, anytime it enters something, such as a cup, it will take on the structure and it will take on the properties of that. Copper has electrical conductivity to it, so it helps boost electrical conductivity of water, which is what we are. That's why they shock people back to life, because we are electrical beings. But if you think back in the day, everybody used to have copper pipes, and that
Yeah.
was very popular.
We've still got copper pipes. Our house is so old, we've still got copper pipes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So with the copper pipes, people had copper pipes. People also had lead pipes
Yeah.
too, as well, which also same thing. So, you get into all of this and you start to see that everything's became plastic, DuPont and a lot of iron and all this other things. But the thing is we need more for electrical conductivity. And that's why you'll look at like a lot of these cathedrals, they have brass areas in which they would hold their water. Brass is zinc and copper, which creates a battery. So if a person goes to drink that, they're restoring the battery in their body. So water plays a very big role, and depending on the water that we're drinking, it also depends on the structure of the body. Now, the most fascinating thing I've learned with water is that when you walk into a cathedral and you see stained glass windows on the cathedral, the water in your body will actually turn to the exact shapes that you're seeing up on the stained glass windows of the cathedrals
Wow.
because of the vibrations which are pulsing through the frequency of the materials that of the building. So, and this was shown. This guy actually did it with a microscope and sounds and all these cool things. But water is remarkable because it carries data, it carries information, and it also helps to structure things like our bodies. And
Mm.
if we put a lot of toxins like fluoride, which is a neurotoxin derived from phosphate fertilizer, chlorine, or runoffs of pesticides and all that stuff into our body, then we're just going to mess up our body because the water is taking it on like a sponge. But it's just very fascinating when you get into it because even color spectrum plays a
Mm.
role in water too. You think of all the stained glass windows, they had all these beautiful different colors. If that reflection comes down through onto the water, then that imprints a color like a rainbow or a prism onto that water. So you see that a lot of the center points of some of these cathedrals used to have areas where the stained glass windows would all meet and there was water or a fountain in the center so that it would take on those color properties. So there's so much when it comes to it. And it's usually all called woo woo and
Yes.
pseudoscience and whatever else, because those are the terms to make us disconnected from these